The Carolina Panthers selected 3 former Florida Gators during the 2025 NFL Draft. What are they bringing to the table in Carolina? We'll ask someone who knows right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council. Because on Fridays here on the show, I'm answering your weekly Friday mailbag questions, and how you got to get them into me is by either adding me or DMing me over on Twitter at Julian Council, or adding me over on Blue Sky, also at Julian Council. And let's get into it this week, as we're going to learn more about the 2025 Panthers draft class. All 8 of those picks, we're going to dive into their careers in college and what they're bringing to Carolina as we prepare for the 2025 season, all of their rookie years. And there's a few guys who were in multiple places, as that is the nature of college football. So we're going to talk to hosts from the Locked On Podcast Network who covered them early in their career and the final year of their career as well. We're going to talk about 2 of those guys on today's show, as Brandon Olsen, the host of Locked On Gators, is going to break down Princely Umanmielen's first 4 years in Gainesville, Trevor Etienne's first 2 years in Gainesville, and then Cam Jackson, who started off his career in Memphis, his 2 seasons down there at Florida as well. So we're going to talk about each of those 3 picks here on today's show with Brandon Olsen of Locked On Gators in just a moment. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers, as promised, the host of Locked On Gators. Check him out over on YouTube and wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and follow him also over on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Brandon Olsen is back here on the show. Brandon, how you doing, man?
I'm great. You know, I was thinking about it earlier, and I was like, we haven't been on the screen together since Anthony Richardson was a possibility, and bullet dodged. Bullet dodged for you guys. I'll say it.
Bullet dodged, absolutely. I did come out like the day of the draft, and I had said, if you're going to put together Frank Reich and Jim Caldwell and this all-star coaching staff that they were dubbed to be, it would make sense to take the most physically gifted player in that draft, and it was Anthony Richardson. Of course, things have not worked out in Indianapolis. I don't think it's 100% on Anthony, but that's a conversation for Locked On Colts and all the folks up there who are worried about that situation. But good luck, Daniel Jones, as if he's going to be your quarterback this year. Insane what they've been doing there. But let's focus on some of the Gators that are now here in Carolina. And shout out to a listener, Carolyn, who also listens to Locked On Gators. She had reached out to me and asked, are you going to have Brandon Olsen on the show, considering that there's 3 Florida Gators now on the roster? I was like, oh, you're right, because Princely Umanmielen, first 4 years spent down there in Gainesville, Trevor Etienne, first 2 years, and then Cam Jackson started off in Memphis and now spent the last 2 years in Gainesville. Totally missed that. So shout out to Carolyn for producing the show and booking you as a guest here on this Monday. But let's start off with Princely Umanmielen, the 3rd round pick, 77th overall, out of technically the University of Mississippi, but spent 4 years again in Gainesville. He's someone who I'm excited about because I felt like Carolina really needed to have an edge rusher who could come in and potentially be that guy down the line. They got Nick Scorton as well there on day 2, and last year at Ole Miss, his lone season there in Oxford, he was a first-team All-SEC selection. I just want to get your overall thoughts, though, prior to even him going to Ole Miss. Like, what was the feeling about what he was able to do during his 4 years down there at UF?
I love Princely Umanmielen. Caroline can tell you that. I've been talking about Princely for years. By the way, great job with the name this early in the process to get that down packed. But
I watch college football, so I've been known how to say Umanmielen.
No, I'm because half of the announcers screwed up anyway. And this guy, I'm not even gonna bother at that point. But no, look, I love Princely as a player and like on the field and off. I'm a big fan of what he does, what he brings to the table. Always have been. I think that I've said, I think he's going to be a better pro than he was a college player, which I know a lot of people say, frankly, because a lot of people do become better football players as you get better coached. But I think that Princely just has the tools to be an elite pass rusher at the next level. And I think I've been in media for about 8 years now, and I think that's the filthiest spin move I've ever covered on an edge rusher. It comes from Princely there. It's insane. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think he's going to be 8 to 10 sacks pretty early in his career.
Okay, and looking at it right now, it does feel like he's probably going to be more of that third down pass rusher as he still has to develop a 3-down overall game. And just looking at the right now, the depth chart, you still have Jadeveon Clowney on the roster. They have DJ Wonnum, Pat Jones, second they brought in from free agency. They drafted Nick Gordon ahead of him. So there's 4 other guys in that room who can all rotate. So I don't expect that day one they're asking him to be able to stop the run. Like there's other guys who can do that. And they can just send him and let him just go crazy on third down. That would be, I think, the most logical thing for him to do as a rookie. Now I'm curious. I had a listener during the mailbag on Friday. He said he's a Florida alum. He's not missed a game in 10 years. And he was just giving me his perspective of Princely Umanmielen, saying that he was not a fan favorite at Florida. You may have liked him, Brandon. Apparently fans weren't a big fan of him because he would not play within the scheme, and that he also was very active on social media. I'm imagining he was checking fans for all the wild things they say to college players, but think that, oh, whoa, I can't believe you would respond back to me. We actually love you. Happens all the time. But that was something that he brought up. And also apparently after Florida beat Ole Miss, he had some sort of, like spat there with the fans. What's the deal there with the relationship between Florida fans and Umanmielen? Is there like any character issues or maturity concerns that there should be at all as far as that goes?
I think that there used to be maturity issues. Again, he's been gone from Gainesville for a year and a half at this point. So it's been quite some time there. But when he was in Gainesville, he wasn't the most mature person. I will also say this. I think a lot of people, I think part of it was just that unrealistic standard that they hold where like fans are like, oh, I could say whatever I want to you because you have shoulder pads on. But the moment that you respond, you're the bad guy. And I think that that's nonsensical. And there's going to be people that say, hey, like, you should be the bigger person, whatever. I don't have a problem with it. Even when there were no rumors of him transferring, the fans were just all over him because he goes on social media and he responds and he tweets at people. And he absolutely, he does all of that. But I think where people get misconstrued with things is just like that. I don't think he ever did it like maliciously. Like he went out there. I remember there was in the 2023 season, someone that covers Georgia posted a video of Princely rushing inside the tackle's shoulder. And the guy did a video like, you never do that. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to stack, read it, and shed, and then attack that way. And Princely went on Twitter and he was just like, hey, man, like in that play call, that's my job. Like you don't know what my job is. You don't know what my responsibility is. And this is a thing that I think a lot of Florida Gators fans just like to overlook is one thing Florida Gators fans hated about Princely is that when defending the run, when there was a pulling guard, he would hold his wrist and just throw his shoulder down into a pulling player, and Gators fans hated it. But it's just how they defend the run when there's a puller like that. And I told everybody last year, hey, it's not, you're going to know it's not Princely when you watch football this year, and they defend it the same way. And they defended it the same way. But of course, no one's going to go back and say that I was wrong about these things. I've been very outspoken about my support about Princely. I think he's a great ball player. I personally was never really concerned with the going on social media stuff. The only thing that I think ever really happened that gave me a valid concern, I think, was, yes, after Florida beat Ole Miss, he had a bit of a crash out afterward. There was that. But outside of that, I never had an issue with anybody being on social media. I'm on social media. A bunch of people are on social media all the time. They react. He's still human. I don't fault players for responding as long as they're not being jerks about it.
Yeah, and same. Like if you want to say things about people and then they respond, you shouldn't be surprised that you get checked. It happens all the time. But look, that's a situation, at least Ole Miss game where against Florida down in the swamp where Jackson Dart, who somehow was a first-round pick, threw the game away 3 times, was successful twice in doing so. And of course, with the history with Umanmielen and the Florida fans, I would imagine there would be some some tempers there after their playoff hopes went down the toilet that afternoon at the Swamp. As far as like, why did he transfer? Like, what's the background with him leaving Gainesville and going to Ole Miss other than like, I mean, they were throwing everybody a bag back in the portal back in, I guess, December of 23 now.
Yeah. I can tell you I don't know who's going to see this or anything. I was told directly that a big reason he was leaving was because of the scheme fit.
Okay.
And that it was between a couple of schools, which I won't name the schools to put all his business out there, but I was told the reason that he chose Ole Miss was that Pete Golding, who's the DC at Ole Miss, was also the DC at Alabama when Will Anderson was there. And Pete Golding basically said, hey, look at Will Anderson's film, and that's how I'm going to use you. Not saying you are Will Anderson, but that's how you're going to be used in this defense. And that was a big selling point. And I'm sure money played a part in it, but like a guy like Princely was going to get paid no matter what. He had, all the pressures, the pressure rate. He just didn't have the sacks. He had everything else. And so he was going to get paid regardless of whether he stayed or left. I was told that a lot of it came down to Pete Golding and Pete Golding selling him as, hey, we'll play you how we played Will Anderson.
And I think that's a mature decision. When you spent 4 years already in college, you're going to use your COVID year. Why not go somewhere where you feel like you're going to be more of a scheme fit? And, well, he ended up being first team all SEC, tied 10th in the FBS with 10.5 sacks, and looking at PFF, an elite 91.1 grade. And now he's a third-round pick and is going to get an opportunity to be a guy Carolina calls upon, especially on third downs as a rookie. So I think it all worked out for Princely Umanmielen. And lastly, what is Carolina getting in him overall as a player, not just as a rookie, but projecting down the road?
I think you're getting a dog. I truly believe he's going to be one of those guys that, again, maybe he's never going to be a great run defender. Maybe he's never going to be this, all pro player, but I really think he's going to be consistently in that double-digit sack range. I think that he's got a bigger toolbox than he's shown so far, and I also know that he's worked on some things to help evolve that game even more. And so, rushing the passer is the name of the game right now, and yeah, he's trying to win that game. So I do think that he's going to be just a tremendous pass rusher long term.
There's a lot of money to be made for being just a guy who rushes the passer. Obviously, stopping a run, that's important, setting the edge. You want to see that. You can find some other guys to do that. The big money guys, I mean, they can do it all, but they certainly can get after the quarterback and do that when you need it. All right, it's Princely Umanmielen and what he's bringing to Carolina. We'll talk about Trevor Etienne, who also started off his career in Gainesville here with Brandon Olsen in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers, Brandon Olsen, the host of Locked On Gators here on the show, talking about the three former Florida Gators who were drafted over the weekend, 2 weekends ago, I suppose, now, looking at the 2025 NFL Draft. We talked about Princely Umanmielen. Now let's look at Trevor Etienne, who started off his first 2 years in college down there at Gainesville before committing what should still be a cardinal sin. Of all the regulations we should have in college, this is the one I'm just saying, allow them to make as much money, to transfer all the damn time, but can we just not allow them to go to arch rival schools? Like, that's the one thing I wish we could keep sacred. But hell, if he feels like there's a better opportunity for him, so be it. But Trevor Etienne in his 3 seasons at Georgia and at Florida rushed for over 2,000 yards, was third team all SEC last season, led the Bulldogs of 9 rushing touchdowns, and started 10 games that season, only 609 yards because he missed some time because of a rib injury, and then also suspended for the opener because of a DUI. Charges later dropped, but still, Kirby was like, yeah, we're going to sit down this game against Clemson, which they didn't need him because they beat the brakes off of Dabo and the Tigers. First off, Brandon, looking at those 2 years that Trevor spent down there in Gainesville, like I was really excited about him and disappointed when he didn't stay there. I imagine the fan base was disappointed as well. And it did not seem like he really took that next step at Georgia for a multitude of reasons. But what were your overall thoughts of Trevor Etienne's career down there at Florida?
I thought he was capable of doing everything except pass block. That's it. That's that was my thing. And I know that when he, like you mentioned, committed the cardinal sin of going to the biggest rival that you could possibly go to in Georgia, which I think a lot of fans were kind of like, oh, go get your money. And then he went to Georgia and they were like, actually, you're dead to me. That's how a lot of Florida Gators fans approached it. But once he left, the whole thing was, he can't pass block. He stinks. He can't pass block. He's still a damn good running back. All right. That was a thing where, and I know exactly where he went wrong as a pass blocker. Spring game against Kamari Wilson, the safety. He picked him up on the blitz, went low, shoulder into the hip, threw him up in the air. And at that point, he was like, that's how I'm going to pass block every single time now. And it never worked again, but he did it that one time. And that's how he pass blocked every time. And it just never worked. But as far as being an actual runner and receiver, I think he's incredibly dynamic. I honestly, I don't know how much he could have improved his stock at Georgia other than winning or just being behind a better line. I think he's a fantastic running back, and he has been that. He fumbled, I think it was his first carry at Florida against Utah, and he picked it up. He didn't lose it. But if I'm not mistaken, he didn't fumble again in Florida. Or if he did, I don't remember it. But I think he's just an incredible running back, a ton of talent there. I think he's going to be a home run hitter. There's a little bit of a concern, I would say, about just facing these bigger guys in between the tackles, where I think he's gonna have to run more there. But I do think that, again, that's not a thing that I think he's really gonna develop at. He might be already filled out, but I think he's a damn good back as it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was the Kentucky game. Maybe that was the game where he kind of really burst on the scene. You could see like his family up there, as obviously his brother Travis played at Clemson, was outstanding there. I don't think his NFL career has certainly panned out to the level we would have thought coming out so far. But Trevor, different player, did not have the accolades or accomplishments because I don't think he had necessarily the opportunity. Because you look at his time down there at Florida, he was sharing carries Montrell Johnson, who transferred over from Louisiana with Billy Napier. And I thought Montrell overall was a solid back, but did not have nearly the burst and this explosiveness that you saw from Trevor Etienne early on in his career. And then last year when he was at Georgia, I mean, there's a ton of dudes that are always rotating carries down there in Athens. Do you think we kind of didn't really get to see the best of him because of that?
Yeah, I think so. I do think that when he was given the opportunity to get more runs, compiled and back to back and be able to build a bit of a rhythm, I think we saw him excel there at Florida. Part of the reason why he wasn't starting over Montrell Johnson was partially the pass blocking, which isn't meant to be a knock. It's just Billy wants you to pass block if you're a running back. And if you're not good at it, he's not going to put you on the field as much.
That's just reality. I don't think a lot of people understand, like, a running back's job is to not get the quarterback killed. A wide receiver's job is to block. Like, we look at them and say, oh, their job's to carry the football. Their job's to catch the ball. Like, no, first and foremost, you have to do the fundamental things, and that is blocking, doing your assignment, playing assignment football. Because for the most part, especially as a receiver, what are you doing? You may be running routes, but no, mainly you're blocking. So if you can't do that, you can't play.
Yeah, it's no block, no rock. It's as simple as that. It's really just a very simple way to put it no block, no rock, and Trevor Etienne, not a great pass blocker. I also do think that part of it, you mentioned, just sticking to your assignments. I do think that he did a little bit of freestyling that I don't think they were big fans of at the time. But I personally am not the type of person that cares about that. Sometimes, go ahead, it pays off in certain situations. But I think it was that. I don't have any. I was going to say I don't have any ill will towards Trevor, but that's a lie. He went to Georgia. So I do hold that against him.
Why did he go? Do you have any understanding of why he? I mean, obviously, I would just think that the obvious would be like he went to Georgia because, I mean, they're rolling now, and Florida was in a situation where Billy Napier was on the hot seat heading into last fall. But other than that, like, why did he leave Gainesville?
Part of it was that he wasn't the lead back. It was Montrell Johnson. That was part of it. Part of it was he wanted to win, and Florida wasn't doing that. And part part of it was that he did get quite a good bit of money. I don't like to pocket watch. I'm not going to go further than what it is, but
Yeah.
That was part of it, which again, it's NIL. You're going to get paid what you're going to get paid and go do it. But to my knowledge, those were the three main reasons of why he left.
Yeah, it's not NIL because I'm sure there's plenty of listeners here today who had no idea who Trevor Etienne was until he was selected by the Panthers in the 4th round. But hey, get your money. Lastly, you talk about pass blocking. That will be a concern. And considering the fact that you got Chuba Hubbard out there, they brought in Rico Dowdle. I don't think they're going to be asking Trevor Etienne to pass block early on in his career. Now down the road, he'll absolutely have to get better at that. But overall, aside from that being a question mark, what is he providing as a rookie and then projecting forward for the Panthers?
I think he's a home run hitter right away. I like his vision. I think that he's going to find the hole, hit it, and he's going to make you pay. Honestly, I think that I don't know what it is. I feel like first off, he plays faster than the 4.43 40 or whatever it was. I do think that when he gets out in space,
agreed.
When he gets out in space, I don't think he's going to really get caught like that. And I do think that pairing just that speed with his vision makes him just a home run threat every time he touches the ball. And I think that, a lot of times we see this running back ran a 4.38, and it's like, yeah, well, he can't see anything. Like, he's not going to hit the hole. Trevor Etienne will do both. And so I think he's going to be a home run hitter from day one. And he's probably going to be, 5+ yards per carry every touch, just because he's so explosive. He is.
Yeah.
He's going to Saquon it and get tackled for a loss a few times, but he's going to make up for it with a 60-yard rush. And you're going to take that.
Yeah, and I think probably starts off as a third down option early on in his career. And then we'll see with Jonathan Brooks, who Carolina selected last year in the 2nd round, coming off of a torn ACL second time in that same knee. We'll see what he's able to provide once he probably is back fully to health in 2026. And Chuba Hubbard still be under contract. So certainly potentially a guy who can be insurance if Brooks ever leads up to be the guy that they want him to be. And then maybe he can be a home run hitter like Brandon is saying. One more Florida Gator who's on the roster we got to talk about. It's Cam Jackson. We'll talk about him in just a moment here on Locked on Panthers. All right, back here on Locked on Panthers with Brandon Olsen, the host of Locked on Gators. Again, y'all check him out over on YouTube, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Follow him on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. We've already talked about Princely Umanmielen, what he's bringing to Carolina. Trevor Etienne as well, 2 guys who had transferred away from Florida, but one guy who transferred to Florida after starting his career at the University of Memphis is Cam Jackson, the defensive tackle the Panthers took there in the 5th round. After transferring down there to UF, he had 69 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks in his 2 seasons. What were the expectations when Billy Napier welcomed Cam Jackson to Gainesville?
I think that some fans thought he would become this, just world-wrecking defensive tackle. When he joined, I was like, hey, stop the run, and I'm cool with it. And that's what he did. He's a nose tackle. I expect you to do nose tackle things. I don't expect you to be Derek Brown, Dexter Lawrence. Like, I don't expect you to do those things. I expect you to be a pure nose tackle. And that's what he was. And I will say this as well. When he came back for his final season last year, I said I didn't think it was a great idea. I was like, I think that you're a great run stuffing nose tackle as it is. And unless you significantly improve your pass rush, then I don't think it's worth it. He improved it enough where I think it was justified. Like, I think if he came out last year, he would have been a 7th round pick. And so I do think that him coming back for another year really helped him. He fixed his body up a little bit too. He lost some weight, trimmed some fat there. He developed a bit of a pass rush. Nothing great still, but better than he was. And so I think it was actually a great decision to come back, which again, initially wasn't a fan.
Okay. And that's the kind of the scouting report I looked over on NFL.com that they said that he's a complete non-factor as a rusher. Now, this is from Lance Zierlein. It's only one person who's saying that, but I mean, you are also kind of relaying that as well, that he's not known to be a pass rusher in the interior, but can be a run stopper, which Carolina gave up 3,000 yards rushing last year and had the worst defense in the history of the NFL scoring wise. So certainly they can take someone who can stop the run. And the scouting report says he plays long and he's extremely freakish and all of that. So I like the idea of him just being simply a nose tackle. Is that what your expectation would be, is that he'd come in and just pretty much be that guy you rotate in and out to be a run stopper, and then maybe down the road he could develop into something more?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that any team that took him was strictly thinking, we need to stop the run right up the middle. Like he needs to be that guy, especially as we've seen football, kind of shift, the NFL specifically, kind of shift towards, hey, we might be looking to run the football a little bit more. I do think having more nose tackles that can help you there is huge. And look, if anybody's not sold on Cam Jackson, I'm going to take you back 2 years, but go to 2023 Florida versus Tennessee. Watch that game. Florida loses without Cam Jackson because Tennessee's offense very Mickey Mouse. It's a bullcrap offense. But one of the ways that they beat you is just spreading so wide, make you go light in the box. And Florida did that, which, by the way, actually, Panthers fans, go watch 2023 Florida versus Tennessee because Cam Jackson was just destroying the interior of the Tennessee Volunteers offensive line. Princely Umanmielen was actually a big part of the game plan as well because when Tennessee would do that little, we're going to motion the running back out wide, Princely was the guy that followed him usually and took that away as well. So I do think that both those guys, huge factors in that game. And that game, like I think for Cam, if you're a nose tackle and there's any time where you go, hey, look at this game and they lose this game without him, I think if you have that, like I don't care if it's 2 years ago, if you have that at all on your resume, that's a massive compliment. And I think that Cam Jackson earned that.
Oh, no. Like you look at some of those guys like who have come, from the SEC period, like all the championship teams you have ever seen, like over the last 15 years or whatever, when the SEC's been dominant, have always had like that great nose tackle. I think about LSU back when they won in 2007 with Glenn Dorsey. I look at Nick Fairley when Cam Newton took a bunch of nobodies offensively, got them to national championship. Defensively, they were great. They had a guy like Nick Fairley out there. All the guys that Alabama had, Marcel Darius knocks out Colt McCoy and they win the national championship because of that. So to have those kind of guys in Georgia, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, all the monsters that they've had, I think it's always a great thing when you're getting someone who can be that anchor in the middle of a defense, especially for a program like Florida. And to hear that he was one of the guys that really carried them against the Vols, which anytime Florida and Tennessee plays, Tennessee usually finds a way to lose. So kudos to him for getting it done. But anything else that you want to say about Cam Jackson, what he's bringing to Carolina?
I think Cam's a great person. I will say that Cam, when he committed to Florida out of Memphis, I messaged him to just get to know him, introduce myself to him and everything. He responded right away. He was super cheerful, super nice. We've been in touch since. He's a great guy every time we talk. And when he first transferred to Florida, I was like, hey, you want to come on the podcast? He's like, yeah, send me the link right now. And he was just like, right there. He was in the gym when he did it, but he was like, hey, let's do it right now. But he's a great person, great leader. I think he's a fantastic person. I absolutely think that the interview process helped him because you can just tell when you speak to Cam that he's just a pure person. And I think it's fantastic.
All right. Love to hear that. Always glad to have somebody who can be a positive impact here in the community here in Charlotte. But he is Brandon Olsen of Locked On Gators. Again, check him out on YouTube and wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Follow him over on social media at WNS_Brandon. Brandon, appreciate your time as always, man. And excited to see what the Gators can do. I hear DJ Lagway is starting to throw again, and it's going to be a tough schedule. Pretty much same schedule you played last year. But after the way things ended, feeling pretty good about Sunbelt Billy, huh?
Yeah, conference college football playoff or bust. That's what we're gonna say.
Okay.
If it's not the college football playoff, I'm gonna go back to calling him LinkedIn Billy. All right, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay, I love it. Check it out. All the thoughts on DJ Lagway, LinkedIn Billy, the national champion Florida Gator basketball team. Maybe he's talking baseball over there as Kevin O'Sullivan. They're messing around again, second year in a row. But they got the Omaha last year, so does it even matter? I'm sure the Gators will figure it out. But let's go ahead and close it out here. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours, Julian Council. Again, y'all, make sure to subscribe and follow the show free here on YouTube, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter at Julian Council and Blue Sky at Julian Council, because I'm back on Friday answering your weekly Friday mailbag questions, either at me or DM me on Twitter or at me on Blue Sky to get those in. In the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole as always, keep pounding. And we're back on Tuesday, continuing to get to know the 2025 draft class for your Carolina Panthers.